What's good to know, we will, when it comes to buy-to-let, keep-to-let, we will walk you through all the legal and regulatory considerations, because there are quite a few things you need to consider. We work in total with more than 30 mortgage lenders. When it comes to buy-to-let, keep-to-let, there are 9 banks that offer buy-to-let products. And what's good to tell you, and this is what we have as a unique selling point, we have with a few of the lenders that we work with, we have a bit of a special cooperation. What that means in a practical sense is we can get done things either faster or more than others can, even sometimes more than the bank employees themselves can do. We're not only offering buy-to-let mortgages. We initially started with residential mortgages, but we saw the need for buy-to-let and keep-to-let mortgages, so we specialize ourselves in that as well. Next to that, you have refinance, increasing your mortgage, and also tailor-made solutions. But I'll skip that for now. Before we start, I think Karim has a few questions to ask.
I actually do not this time, but I will set those up, and maybe we can ask them at the end, if that's all right.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks. I'll set that
up. What you can expect today is an introduction to buy-to-let mortgages, a few reasons to invest. I am quite curious to hear a bit more about everybody's that attending, what made them attend this webinar. Maybe you could already post a few of the responses in the chat. What's also good to tell you, at the end of the presentation, there's a Q&A. What else we will discuss? Unique financial benefits, eligibility, process and timeline. So how does it work? What do you need to do when? And then rates and fees, and at the end, as mentioned, a Q&A. You probably already know this, but a buy-to-let mortgage is not the same as a residential mortgage. Biggest difference is a buy-to-let mortgage is solely intended for you to have tenants, and so you have a rental income. You cannot get a buy-to-let mortgage to live in the property yourself, and the other way around. So you cannot get a residential mortgage to rent out. There are a few differences between the two. Residential mortgage in the Netherlands, you can get up to 100% of the value of the property. Transfer tax is 2%. You have, let's say, the regular interest rates, and the eligibility is based on the income and property value. I'm simplifying this, obviously, but that's those are the main factors. When it comes to buy-to-let, keep-to-let, it works a bit different. As a rule of thumb, you can get 70% of the property value. I'll explain that a bit more in detail later during this presentation. The property transfer tax is set at 10.4%. So that's a huge difference when it comes to when you're comparing that with a residential mortgage. What most banks do is they have their regular interest rates, and if you're getting a buy-to-let or a keep-to-let mortgage, you need to pay a premium because the banks believe there is additional risk. And then the eligibility is not based on only income, your own income, but also on the rental income of the property and also your savings. I'll also dive into that a bit more later during this presentation. Just to also mention the difference between buy-to-let and keep-to-let. In a situation where it's buy-to-let, then you're buying a home to rent out. Keep-to-let, you already have a property. It could be the property you're already renting, and you simply want to either move to a bigger home and keep the current property. This is the most common scenario, or you have a scenario where you already have a buy-to-let mortgage and you just want to refinance that. So that's the difference between buy-to-let and keep-to-let. Few of the reasons to invest, and this can differ per person. Some people find it very attractive to have rental income or let's say additional income every month. Some people will invest just to see an appreciation of the property value. We also have clients that tell us, I've already been investing in stocks. I also want to invest in real estate, so there's a bit of a diversification going on of my investment portfolio. For some people, it's interesting to use the bank's money to invest. So instead of having 150K and invest solely 150K, you could also try to get a buy-to-let mortgage from a bank, and instead of investing with only 150K, you're suddenly investing with, let's say, 450K. So for some people, this is also very attractive. We read a lot about inflation, still reading a lot about that. Real estate is a very smart way to hedge the risk of any risks involved with inflation. Some people will see it as retirement income. Some people find it attractive that it's a tangible asset versus stocks, which are intangible. And some people find it attractive to own something and develop that. Some of the unique financial benefits, especially as an expat. So we also get a lot of questions about, is the rental income, is that taxed? Will I pay income tax on the rental income? I can already confirm that that is not the case. How the tax authorities are approaching this specific topic is, as long as it's not your primary income and it's an investment to you, then it's not considered income. It's just the return on an investment you're making, and therefore it's not taxed. Capital tax, so being taxed on the return you're making, as long as you have the 30% facility, you will not be taxed. When the 30% facility is ending, obviously you will be taxed, and you can contact us to calculate the impact for you. On top of that, the tax you need to consider is the annual property tax. What you can see how you're being taxed is the municipality is going to look at the VOS value, and they will use a certain percentage, and that's the annual property tax you would need to pay, and this differs per municipality. So in some municipalities, it's a bit more expensive, and in some municipalities, it's a bit more cheap. Looking at closing fees, this is quite a big topic, especially because of the property transfer tax. And I do want to, let's say, broaden your horizon in that sense. So what you see in front of you is a table, and in that table, in the left column, you see all the fees related to buying an existing home of 500K. And on the right side, you see all the closing fees that are that you need to pay when you buy a new build as an investment. So property transfer tax, that's the biggest chunk, 10.4% versus new build, 0 or none. Because there's no property yet, you don't have to pay property transfer tax. So this is good to keep in mind. This is saving you 52K in an investment. That's why it could be quite interesting to look into the new build option. Real estate agent is also existing home. Some people use it, some people don't. You're not obliged to use it. When it comes to buy to let, I do advise to use one, simply because they can also guide you towards the right property, so you can get the biggest return on your investment, biggest expected return. Also, the notary, the fees are a bit different. Valuation report is the same. Bank guarantee, existing home, it's needed. New build, it's not needed. Our fee, that's clear. We work with a success fee. Looking at simply the closing fees, it could make sense to buy a new build. However, with the new build, during the first 2 years, I'll use that as an example. The property still needs to be constructed. In other words, you cannot rent out a property yet. So it means that you have a mortgage and you're paying interest. But even if we would add the interest payments to the fees, then you can see at the bottom the difference between investing in an existing home and a new build. It could still make sense to buy an existing home, but that's something we would need to discuss together to see what's most important to you and which strategy you want to follow. Looking at the rates, you've probably read a lot about rates going up, being double what they were, let's say 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. I do want to put that into perspective. Looking at buy-to-let, we can offer interest rates starting from 5.14. What you see in the graph in front of you, actually we have a very healthy market at the moment, and it's not, the interest rates aren't that high in comparison to a few years ago. So the graph shows, this is a graph from the Dutch Central Bank showing the average interest rates that banks were offering for mortgages since 2003. And what you can see over here, that for example in 2008, where we had the financial crisis, 2011, you can see that interest rates were around 5% on average for buy-to-let, with a premium of 0.7 to 1.2. That would mean that you were looking at let's say 5.7. So currently we're not in a bad market, and it's looking at historically what's happening. It's a healthier market. Looking at the eligibility, so I already mentioned that slightly. How banks are going to approach it is that they are going to look at your income. They're going to look at the cost of your own home. Why is that? So your income needs to be sufficient to pay for your own home. And why is that important? Because the buy-to-let bank does not want you to use the rental income to pay for your own home, because the rental income, as you can see, needs to pay for at least the cost of the buy-to-let mortgage or keep-to-let mortgage. And on top of that, there needs to be a margin of 20 to 25%. Because how a buy-to-let bank is approaching this is you need to pay for maintenance as a homeowner. You need to pay management fees, taxes, and to ensure that you can pay that, they will oblige you to have a difference of 20 to 25% between the rental income and the cost of the buy-to-let mortgage. On top of that, two variables that the bank will take into account is how much savings do you have available, and also the loan-to-value ratio. Looking at process and timelines. So we're in November right now. Where you start is always how much mortgage can I afford? So what is the eligibility? Then we will discuss and determine a strategy together. Then it would be best to connect with a real estate agent and an appraiser, depending on your situation. If it's a buy-to-let or keep-to-let, find your property and collect documents, and then we get your mortgage approved. And then actually in let's say 2 to 3 months, you could be a homeowner with a tenant and start collecting your rental income. Shortly on the returns, these are two examples. On the left side, purchase price of 315, expected rental income 1.4. The required funds, so the input that is needed from your end, is around 100K. Looking at the return of that 100K, that will be around 4.27% for this specific property in this example. On the right side, you see a purchase price of 600, expected rental income 2K, required funds 264, and the return is slightly lower. What's good to keep in mind, when I mentioned we need to determine your strategy, for some people looking at their risk profile, it's more attractive to buy, let's say, the cheaper homes in smaller municipalities to have a bigger return, looking at the investment they made. Some people are more comfortable if they buy a home in Amsterdam, for example. They need to pay more for it. The input also is a bit more, the return is a bit lower. However, since it's Amsterdam, the risk is also lower. And for some people, this is acceptable simply because they expect an appreciation of the property value, so that if they sell the property, that's when the biggest return is coming in. That's not something we can calculate for you, since we simply cannot tell you what the property prices will be in 5-6 years. But it is something that is important to some of our clients. Looking at pricing, we work with a success fee. Success means we guide you from start to end. End meaning the mortgage is approved, you sign the paperwork, everything gets confirmed to the notary, and at the notary you pay our invoice. So advisory, calculations, and mortgage application is included. Keep to let, the price is a bit lower, simply because there is no, let's say, simply because you already own the property, it makes things easier, slightly easier to explain to the bank. That's why the fee is a bit lower, but the service and the service is the same. This was it for now. So I already see questions popping up in the chat. I think Egle will take over from here on to discuss the questions.
Yes, but just before that, maybe we can do the poll to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the reasons why people want to? Also, for more information, you can always scan QR code and check our website. I already shared some materials in the chat regarding Property Protection Act, which is also related with the first question. But maybe we can wait for results first.
Would you like me to share the results?
If it's ready?
Yeah,
of course.
I think we're good. Yeah, everyone answered. Sounds good.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Generate wealth in Amsterdam. Most of the answers. So, as I mentioned before, the first question was related with the Property Protection Act. And basically that the government was trying to regulate it, and maybe Sezer, you could a little bit elaborate how does it work that in different cities, specific regulations that each municipality can set it up.
Yeah, what we will do is after this webinar, you will receive additional information from us. So on our website, you can see exactly what the requirements are for which municipality. I'll give you an example. So because of the current,
one more thing, can you include also that note that do you need to live in a property of 4 years? So it's also okay.
Yeah, don't worry. So because of the current shortage in housing in the Netherlands, what a lot of municipalities have done is they put a Purchase Protection Act in place. What it means, and I'm oversimplifying now, if you want to buy a home under a certain value, and the municipalities will always refer to the VAS value, which is the, let's say, the municipality value, then you cannot rent it out during the first 4 years. So if you want to buy an investment property in these in the municipalities where there is a Purchase Protection Act, the property needs to have a certain value before you can rent it out immediately. I'm going to give you an example for how it, for example, works in Amsterdam. The VAS value of the property needs to be at least 533,000. So if you're buying that would mean in a, let's say, a practical sense, you're buying a 600K property to rent out. Another detail is if you buy a property under that value, you would need to rent it out for the first, or sorry, you would need to live in the property for the first 4 years. So if you bought a home, let's say 2 or 3 months ago, and your plan is to rent it out in 2 years, the VAS value is becoming very important if you can rent it out, yes or no. So this is good to keep in mind, and obviously we will guide you through this process when we work together and when these details need to be discussed. But that's an example of the municipality of Amsterdam.
And what about regulations for the next year about point system for the landlords? Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Is it what's the point system and how to meet the requirements?
So because of the current shortage in housing, so the rental point system has always been there. What is the rental point system? If the property is meeting certain requirements, and I'll give you an example. And so, for example, is the fountain in the bathroom, is that a mixed fountain, meaning you can get cold and warm water out of the fountain, or is it solely cold water? Then you will get, if warm water is also available, then your property will have an extra point. Meaning the more luxurious the property is, or the better it's maintained. Also, energy labels are important. This will all cause your property to have certain points. Every rental property is obliged to get those points certified. The plan for next year, I'm still saying it's a plan because there's a lot of back and forth going between the different, let's say, governmental entities. But the plan of the government is to make it less attractive to buy smaller homes and as an investment property, because those points will not be considered, or those properties will not be considered as a, let's say, property that can be rented out in the liberal market. Meaning you can ask, as a homeowner, you can ask any rent that you can ask, as long as the tenant wants to pay it. it will be considered social housing, the more smaller properties. And this is what the question is referring to, but we will obviously also guide you over there. And this is also why it's important to work with a real estate agent or to have a good appraiser next to you that can also guide you over there.
Thank you. Another question is, I heard you can get a monetary gift from your parents to buy a house. Would this be applicable for rental property or just in the property you live in?
There's a bit of a nuance to it. The tax authorities are happy if money is earned abroad and spent in the Netherlands. What that means, and I'll rephrase this, if your parents, or if in this case your parents don't have any connection to the Netherlands, they have never lived in the Netherlands, there is no cap on what can be transferred as a gift, and there are also no additional rules as to on what you're spending that on. So as long as your parents don't have any connection to the Netherlands, it doesn't matter.
Another question. Do we help advise on buying buy-to-let properties outside the Netherlands?
So what's good to keep in mind, we work with Dutch banks, and we can only assist in getting financing on those Dutch properties, or on Dutch properties from those Dutch banks. So in that sense, we can advise the people to take out or how to take out equity from their current property, but we cannot advise on the properties that are abroad, if that makes sense.
Okay. So Meta asking, can we rent out property if we plan to leave the country? Do we need to change the bank to get a rent mortgage? And if so, is it a good idea to pay some mortgage in advance every year? So as I understand, to repay it.
To rephrase the question, you plan on leaving the country, you want to keep the property, what are the next steps, how to arrange this in the best way? It makes sense to refinance it, simply because I'm expecting you currently have a residential mortgage, at least that's my assumption. If not, Meta, then please let me know. And then it makes sense to have a long-term plan, meaning it's refinanced to a keep-to-let mortgage, so the bank allows you to rent it out. Looking at early repayments, as I mentioned, you could borrow up to around 70% of the property value, so it could mean that you would need to do some extra repayments or early repayments, but that's something we can discuss in advance before doing the payments.
Thank you. Coming back to transfer tax, are those 4 years applicable to all municipalities, or is it a general rule that you need to live in those?
Yeah, the Purchase Protection Act. It depends on the municipality as well. Some municipalities are a bit more, let's say, flexible, but you can imagine that, let's say, the bigger municipalities, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, Utrecht, Eindhoven, that they are quite strict on the 4 years. And what is good to tell you, just to give a bit of additional information, if your employer in the Netherlands, let's say you work for Shell, as an example, and Shell is sending you abroad for a year, then you could get permission to rent out the property for a year because your employer is sending you abroad, and the bank will also give you permission to rent out the property, but it will be solely for a year, and this is within the 4-year mark or 4-year term. So going out for a year is possible.
So there was almost the last question, but 2 more questions came in. 1 second. So will the point system affect a rental property you already own? And is the system different, the point system per city, or points are set
Yeah,
through?
the rental point system is a national system, so that it doesn't matter in which municipality you're in. That's a national system. The rental points, so they will be put in place from the 1st of January is the expectation. If you already have a rental contract, that will not change. So if you already have a tenant before the end of the year, the rules will not change. However, if you get a tenant, let's say on the 2nd of January, then it does affect the contract. We also always advise to use a real estate agent that will set up the contract in the right way, so to prevent any nasty surprises in the future.
Okay, thank you. I got some private questions.
Oh, okay.
But I will advise everyone just to schedule a free introduction call, and then you can have a call with Sezer, and he can answer specifically for your situation. And so I have one more question. What is the process for forming a VAS? I'm very bad in very long word.
I can see the question. It's a question from Upsing.
Yeah.
The question is about starting an entity, so starting a company that is buying real estate. Just to simplify the answer to that question, when you start the entity, the company, the entity can buy real estate. It's not different than buying it as a private person, but it does eat away the return if you don't have that many properties yet, because you will need to pay a bookkeeper to come up with the or to do the bookkeeping, and that'll be a waste of money if you only have one property. If you plan on buying, let's say, 10 properties, then it does make sense to start a BV. But then also we'll have a bit of a different discussion, and it will be a different approach. I hope that answers the question, Upsing.
Okay, and one more question regarding taxes. Is it a good approach to extend your box free, no tax deductions on your living house, and take lease mortgage, buy to let, or investment mortgage, and invest on box free on a buy to let property, or get maximum mortgage on buy to let? So I'm not sure if you understood the question, but you can.
Yeah, I can see the question. Thank you for asking the question, Venkatesh. The question Venkatesh is asking is, and I don't know if everybody knows this, if you have your own property, then how it will be taxed is in box 1. I want to stay away from the technical part, but your income is being deducted by the interest that you're paying on your own home. And what that means is that you're getting a tax benefit either monthly or annually, simply for the fact that you own a home and have a mortgage. What Venkatesh is asking, does it make sense, or is it smart to move your own home from being taxed as within the income brackets? Is it better to move it to the capital tax or capital taxation? It depends on the situation to give that answer, but also what's good to keep in mind. So a few years ago, the government didn't have plans to change the rental market, because of the shortage in housing and the low interest rates, they decided to change all these rules to make it less attractive to buy investment properties. What I can imagine is that because interest rates have gone up, which makes it slightly less attractive than, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago. What I can imagine is that, and this is a bit of a Dutch saying, the saying in Dutch, and I'll translate it in a bit of a free way, is that whenever there's a proposal, the proposal is asking for the biggest demands ever. But in the end, when the plans are being put into place, those demands aren't as high anymore. This is a Dutch approach to also give you a bit of a perspective on Dutch culture. So they ask for way more than they expect to get, so that if during the negotiation they come to an agreement, they will still have more than what they expected. And I also expect that that will happen with the rules and regulations proposed by the current government.
Mm-hmm.
And as you all know, on the 22nd of November, we have elections. So it could mean that things are going to completely change and nothing will be, nothing is written in stone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Are there any exceptions to renting out property? For example, if you get married or you want to move with your partner?
I see that's a question from Justine. No, getting married is not an exception. So my question would be an exception to what, Justine? Maybe you could clarify.
Mm. Yeah, see, so some of the personal messages that I received, I already asked to schedule a call because there are quite a lot of questions following.
Details, yeah, okay.
Yeah, with the details, and maybe it's not really applicable to one. One more question regarding real estate contracts. Is the government also planning to ban 2-year rental contracts? And in which circumstances will a landlord be able to terminate a rental contract?
To give the short answer, so probably you already noticed when you came to the Netherlands that initially you got a temporary contract with a maximum term of 2 years. What has been proposed is that that's going to be banned. So temporary contracts will not be available anymore. Again, I don't know if that's going to happen. Just to give you a bit of background information, what data is showing us is that so traditionally investments in properties that need to be developed, so new build properties, were let's say the last 10 years the driving factor of the buy-to-let market. What the government is seeing is that the investments in the new build properties are slowing down because of the proposed plans, and to keep, let's say, the fire burning. I don't expect that the rules or the proposed plans that they will go through. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I'm expecting that it will not be as big as what's maybe written in the news.
Mm-hmm. And Justine just added more to her question. So, can you rent out your apartment less than 4 years of living in it if you move in with your partner?
It depends a bit on the situation, but if you plan on doing that, please contact us first, because then we can look into your case to see if there's a way around renting out your home before the 4-year term ends. because it also depends on a few different factors.
And one of the last questions, I would say, excluding the direct questions, in 2025, if you own the rental property, you are required to create a company for that instead of private for now. Is it correct?
Maybe Koi could ask the question in a different way.
So basically, if you're gonna own a property in 2025, will you need to have a company for that? Is it
only if that makes sense? But maybe you could schedule a call with us.
Yeah.
We could discuss that a bit more in detail.
And for Andrea, I think the best is also to schedule a call with us. I see there are a lot of questions coming from that side, so we can take time to.
All right. All right.
To discuss that.
I think I want to thank everybody for the questions, for attending our webinar, and also a big thank you to Karim again for having us.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all this awesome information and really helping people through this journey. I know it's appreciated by our audience, by all the lovely thank yous. So great. Thank you.
You can expect to receive an email from us with a video recording and as well with some additional resources, purchase protection ad, what is keep to let, or what steps you need to take if you want to invest. I think you can expect tomorrow, the latest. So keep eye on your inbox. Right.
Enjoy your day, everybody.
All right.
And
thank you
I
very
hope
much.
you can still get some lunch.
Enjoy your day, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.